Ciao a tutti e benvenuti al Tavolo Italiano. Questa lezione is on why do they say that? Lesson 1. Tuttavia, ma e però. Few footnotes before we start. This is the first of a series of mini videos, meaning short lessons, designed to fine-tune your Italian. How to choose one word over another in order to more clearly communicate your thoughts and feelings in Italian. This lesson assumes that you are moving out of the basic levels of Italian, meaning you have a basic knowledge of verb conjugation, basic vocabulary, and grammar. In short, you could get by with the Italian you already know. If this is not you, I would encourage you to check out the beginner classes first at tavoloitaliano.com. Now, of course, those are all free online. Pronto? Okay, let's get started. Why this series? I've been really fortunate in that as I grow in my knowledge of the Italian language, and believe me, I have a long way to go, I have increasingly had the opportunity to correspond with more and more Italians currently residing in Italy via email, Facebook, and Skype. In the course of our conversations, I noticed that they select various words for things that I was using only one word to convey. The word I was most comfortable with and understood. Sometimes I didn't even know at first what some of these words were, or that they either had similar meanings or could be used in similar ways. I have found that by digging further into this issue, it has allowed me to better convey what I think and feel and understand better what they are saying. I hope you find this information handy as well. I have decided to start with the simplest example I could think of, the Italian equivalent of but. I significati. Let's start by looking at the definitions of each of these words. I searched the internet for each and included every word that the various dictionary sites chose to translate these words into, so this is a compilation of information. Ma was but or yet. Però was also but or yet, but in parentheses it was and yet, but nevertheless, or however. Tuttavia, translated as nevertheless, yet, however, in spite of that. Two things to note here. The yet found here in these definitions isn't the same as not yet, but more like, I thought about it, yet I just couldn't bring myself to do it. These definitions look easily distinguishable in English. These definitions look easily distinguishable, but in English we tend to be lazy and use one word repeatedly when others may be better suited to convey the full meaning of what we are saying. I find this even more so when learning to speak a new language. It's easier to stay with what we already know as opposed to trying to incorporate the most appropriate words. L'uso. After I had started communicating with Italians on a regular basis, I found that I basically was using one conjunction to convey conflict, while they often chose to use one or two others. Was I breaking any grammatical rules, or did I hinder their ability to understand me? Not at all. But I have to admit, I just think it is more fun broadening my vocabulary and continuing to try to improve my use of the Italian language. And finally, I have found that the Italians I speak with really appreciate a non-Italian putting forth the effort to do so. And it just seems to open doors to many opportunities. It's no different with us when we meet a foreigner that is really able to communicate well in English. So enough with all the intro mumbo-jumbo, which will not be in future lessons in this series. I want to keep these videos in the future short and sweet, to the point, and easily remembered. So let's continue. Che ho trovato. In addition to searching online for definitions, etc., I spoke with Italian friends and asked on our Facebook page, facebook.com, mi piace, the Italian table, the question, what is the difference and how do I know when to use which? Tina, a friend of mine in Rome, replied, English version, "Hello, Carlo, maybe I can help. The words tuttavia, ma e però are adversative conjunctions and have value, that is, joining two words or phrases that have content not only different but also in opposition. You cannot start a sentence with these conjunctions because their nature is binding and should not be used after a period. They both have value, però is more emphatic." So in keeping with the definitions, it appears that if you wish to emphasize a point of contrast, però is a naturally better choice. It's more emphatic. La confermazione. Here are some examples of the use of each that I found in Riverso, somewhat of an online dictionary. Mi piacerebbe venire, ma non posso. I would love to come, but I can't. There we see the use of ma. It's more of a statement of fact. Mi piace, però è troppo caro. I like it, but, nevertheless, it's too expensive. I added the word nevertheless in parentheses there. There's a little more emphasis on it. And then we have il compito era difficile, tuttavia ce l'ho fatta. The test was difficult, but, or however, I managed to do it. Once again, I put the word however, the word in parentheses there, because you could actually substitute the word but with the word nevertheless here in the word however there. So you'll see, mi piacerebbe venire ma non posso. I would love to come, but I can't. Okay, so it's just a statement of fact. Mi piace, però è troppo caro. I like it, nevertheless it's too expensive. Just a little more emphasis. Il compito era difficile, tuttavia ce l'ho fatta. The test was difficult, however I managed to do it. It's a little more formal, a little more polite. Speaking of that, we haven't addressed tuttavia yet. I think for this study it's best summed up with the following phrase that I found online, so this wasn't my thought as far as the origin of the way it's worded. In some cases, ma and però may also be replaced by tuttavia, nonetheless, which usually happens when you mean to sound polite and a bit formal. Il tuo stile. As we have seen, the definitions, while not exactly the same, are similar, but there is also an issue of style. There are times when one word just may sound better than another. For example, ma non solo, but not only. Però non solo just doesn't flow as nice. Take that into consideration with how and what you want to communicate, and you can begin to develop your own style of speaking Italian while staying grammatically correct and socially appropriate. If you think you would never do that, or that this is a little over the top, consider how you and others speak English. We all use differing vocabularies, expressions, and emphasize things in our own way. Sometimes you could even identify somebody by their communication, even if you couldn't hear their words. They made English their own, a part of them. Let's do that with Italian, and that is what this series is about. I genuinely hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to learning much in making this series. Il riassunto. I thought it only fitting that we end this lesson with a look at some sentences and see if we agree on which word would seem a bit more appropriate. It is possible and even likely that there is more than one correct answer, so I'm not saying my choice is right. Remember, this is about style and ownership. So after seeing the sentence, say out loud which word you would use in the place of but. Would it be tuttavia, ma, or però? And let's see if we agree. I tried to get here in time, but I got held up in traffic. I would use ma, because it's just basically a statement of fact. I don't agree with everything she says, but this is still a great book. I think we could use tuttavia here, because it could be, I don't agree with everything she says. Nevertheless, this is still a great book. Once again, your answer doesn't have to be the same as mine. I would have gone, but you told me not to bother. For this one, I would definitely use però, because the but has a little bit of emphasis there. You want to put a strong contrast, but you told me not to bother. Yes, he lost the account, but he still could be a great employee. I would have to say tuttavia. Nevertheless, yes, he lost the account, or could be, however, so which could also be tuttavia. I think it's a little more polite, a little more businesslike. He lost the account, however, he could still be a great employee. Soccer is okay, but I really prefer American football. By the way, that sentence is mine. And here I would translate but as però, because I want to make a clear distinction there. Emphasize a little bit the contrast. I would offer you some coffee, but I don't have any. That one's kind of a toss-up. Could be però, could easily be ma. Statement of fact. So here you get an idea, and even looking at English, I gotta be honest, I probably would have used but in all these sentences. But some of them sound better with, nevertheless, or however, or other English words that were used in the definitions of the three words tuttavia, ma, e però. A good vocabulary is always a great thing to have. And when learning a second language, it comes in really handy. And even if you don't think you're going to use all three, at least if you know the three and what they mean and how they're used, now when you hear an Italian use these words, hopefully it'll help your comprehension of what it is that they're trying to say. Allora, grazie mille per aver studiato con il Tavolo Italiano. Thank you very much for studying with il Tavolo Italiano. Remember, you can find more information on this topic and many others, all at iltavoloitaliano.com, always for free. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and ricordate, parla italiano.